Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
My name is Evan Marks, and at 49 years old, I've mastered the art of being spectacularly average. I manage finances for a mid-sized manufacturing company in Cleveland, drive a 7-year-old Honda Civic, and own exactly 3 ties that don't have coffee stains on them. My wife Marta calls me dependable, the same way people describe oatmeal. Technically a compliment, but, they'd rather have bacon. Tonight, like every Tuesday for the past 6 months, Marta's having her girls' night in our kitchen. I'm relegated to the basement office, supposedly balancing spreadsheets, but actually listening to them cackle through the heating vents. The acoustics down here are surprisingly good for a house built in 1987. Jake could bench press me into next week, I hear Marta's voice, followed by giggles that sound like wine glasses clinking. Did you see his arms at the company picnic? Jake Turnbull, creative director at T-Bold Ad Agency, where Marta works, drives a vintage BMW that probably costs more than my annual salary. I've met him twice at office parties, the kind of guy who wears designer jeans to casual events and somehow makes it work. Marta, you're terrible, comes Victoria's voice. My sister-in-law has always been the catalyst for trouble in our family. What would Evan think? Evan thinks a wild night is staying up past 10:30 to watch the news, Marta replies, and the laughter that follows feels like ice water in my veins. I lean back in my chair, staring at the ceiling tiles I installed myself 3 summers ago. 22 years of marriage, and apparently I've become the punchline to my wife's jokes. The irony isn't lost on me. I spent my college years playing Division II basketball, back when my knees worked and my metabolism could handle pizza at midnight. Now I'm the guy who gets winded carrying groceries upstairs. My phone buzzes. Text from our son Ross, currently pursuing his master's degree in Chicago. Mom seems different lately. Everything okay? Even our 22-year-old notices. Ross inherited my sarcasm and Marta's ambition, a dangerous combination that makes him perceptive about family dynamics. I type back, define okay. Your mother's book club has turned into a Jake Turnbull fan club. The response comes quickly. Yikes. Want me to call her? Not necessary. I'm handling it with my usual grace and dignity. So you're doing nothing and hoping it goes away. You know me too well. Upstairs, the conversation has shifted to vacation plans. Marta's talking about some conference in Miami next month, how the company's sending her and a few others to scout new clients. She's never mentioned this conference to me, which seems like the kind of thing you'd discuss with your husband of 2 decades. I close my laptop and head upstairs, practicing my surprised but supportive husband face in the hallway mirror. The kitchen falls silent when I appear, 4 women suddenly fascinated by their wine glasses. Evening, ladies, I say, grabbing a beer from the fridge. Don't mind me, just passing through. Marta's friend Diane lives next door and has made neighborhood gossip her part-time career. She gives me the kind of smile that suggests she knows something I don't. Evan, we were just talking about how hard everyone's working these days. Oh, absolutely, I reply, popping open my beer. Marta's been putting in some serious overtime lately. Very dedicated to her projects. Victoria shoots Marta a look I pretend not to catch. My sister-in-law has always been the family troublemaker, but lately there's something different about her expressions around Marta, like she's watching a train wreck in slow motion. The Miami conference should be exciting, I continue, taking a sip of beer. Marta just mentioned it. When is that again, honey? The silence stretches long enough for me to count the seconds. 1, 2, 3. Next month, Marta finally says, her voice carefully neutral. It's a last-minute thing. Very boring, actually. I'm sure it will be, I say, and the double meaning hangs in the air like smoke. After the women leave, Marta and I clean up in the kind of silence that's become our default setting. She loads the dishwasher with mechanical precision while I wipe down counters, both of us performing the choreography of a marriage running on autopilot. You were weird tonight, she says without looking at me. Weird how? That thing you do, the comments, the tone. I pause, dish rag in hand. What tone? Like you know something. Like you're keeping score. The accusation stings because it's partially true. I have been keeping score, mentally cataloging the late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the way she started dressing differently for work. But admitting that feels like crossing a line we can't uncross. I don't know anything, I say, which is both honest and completely beside the point. She turns to face me, and for a moment I see the woman I married, the ambitious art student who laughed at my terrible jokes and believed I could be more than average. But the moment passes, replaced by someone who looks at me like I'm a problem to be solved. Maybe that's the issue, she says softly. That night, I lie awake listening to Marta breathe beside me, her back turned in sleep. The digital clock reads 2:17 a.m. when I hear her phone buzz on the nightstand. She doesn't stir, but the screen lights up just long enough for me to see J in the notification preview. J for Jake, presumably. Texting my wife at 2:17 in the morning. I stare at the ceiling, doing the math in my head. 22 years of marriage, 2 kids. A mortgage we'll finish paying when I'm 63. The prenup we signed back when we were young and thought we were being practical, not prophetic. That prenup. Marta's father was a lawyer, and he insisted on protecting his daughter's assets. At the time, she had more money than me, trust fund, family connections, the kind of financial security I'd never known. The agreement seemed reasonable. What's mine stays mine, what's yours stays yours. And we'll build something together in between. Except we built everything together. The house, the savings, the life. And according to that ironclad document gathering dust in our filing cabinet, together legally means mostly Evan's responsibility. I roll over and close my eyes, but sleep doesn't come. Instead, I lie there planning tomorrow's routine, coffee at 6, shower at 6:15, kiss goodbye at 7:30 to a wife who's already thinking about someone else. The funny thing about being average is that people underestimate you. They assume you're not paying attention, not capable of connecting dots, not smart enough to see what's happening right in front of you. Sometimes being underestimated is the best advantage you can have. Wednesday morning arrives with the kind of gray Cleveland sky that makes you question your life choices. I'm sitting in my car outside T-Bold Ad Agency at 7:45 a.m., feeling like a discount private investigator. The building is all glass and steel, the kind of modern architecture that screams, "We're creative and successful," to anyone driving by. Marta's BMW is already in the lot, parked next to a familiar vintage model that belongs to Jake. Interesting. The office doesn't officially open until 8:30. I've brought coffee and a newspaper, playing the part of a man with nowhere urgent to be. It's surprisingly easy to blend in with the morning smokers clustered near the building entrance. Nobody expects the guy in khakis and a polo shirt to be conducting surveillance. At 8:15, I watch Jake emerge from the building, checking his phone with the satisfied expression of a man who's had a productive morning. He climbs into his BMW and drives away, leaving me with questions I'm not sure I want answered. My phone rings. Marta. Hey, I answer, trying to sound normal. I forgot to mention I'll be late tonight. Client dinner. Which client? A pause. The Henderson Group. Big presentation tomorrow. I know Marta's accounts. Henderson Group signed with a different agency 6 months ago. But I don't mention this. Okay, I'll grab something for dinner. Thanks, you're the best. The lie comes so easily it's almost impressive. 22 years of marriage, and she's become fluent in deception, while I'm still struggling with the basics. After she hangs up, I sit in my car for another 20 minutes, watching office workers arrive for their normal, honest jobs. Part of me wants to drive home, pretend this morning never happened, go back to being the husband who doesn't ask uncomfortable questions. Instead, I dial a number I found online last night. Starbucks on Euclid Avenue, I tell Marta's assistant when she answers. 30 minutes. I'll be the guy with the venti caramel macchiato and the desperate expression. Jennifer Chen, no relation to any forbidden names, just bad timing on the surname, has been Marta's assistant for 3 years. She's 26, efficient, and chronically underpaid. More importantly, she has access to Marta's calendar and a student loan debt that makes her receptive to supplemental income. This feels weird, she says, sliding into the booth across from me, like ethically questionable. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal, I reply, pushing the coffee toward her. I just want to understand my wife's schedule. Is that so wrong? When you put it like that, it sounds reasonable, but you're basically asking me to spy on my boss. I'm asking you to confirm whether my wife is lying to me about client dinners and Miami conferences. Jennifer takes a sip of her macchiato, considering. She's wearing the kind of outfit that suggests she shops at Target, but wishes she could afford Nordstrom, a situation I understand completely. The Henderson Group thing? Among others. Yeah, that's not happening. They fired us months ago. She pulls out her phone. And the Miami conference. That's interesting. How so? It's real, but it's not a company thing. Jake booked it himself, paid with his personal card. 2 rooms at the Fontainebleau, but she scrolls through something on her screen. The reservation got changed to 1 suite last week. The coffee in my mouth suddenly tastes like betrayal, with a hint of vanilla syrup. 1 suite. 1 suite. Booked under Mr. and Mrs. Turnbull. The audacity is breathtaking. Not only is my wife planning a romantic getaway with her coworker, but she's apparently comfortable using his last name for the reservation. It's the kind of detail that transforms suspicion into certainty. There's more, Jennifer continues, her voice dropping. The office gossip mill has been active lately. I'm listening. Everyone knows about Marta and Jake, like everyone. They're not exactly subtle. She shows me her phone screen, a group text thread with several T-bold employees. This is from yesterday. The messages make my stomach clench. Jake's car was here overnight again. 3rd time this week. Think Evan knows? Doubt it. Guy seems clueless. Marta says he doesn't pay attention to anything. I'm sorry, Jennifer says, watching my face. I know this sucks. Actually, it's clarifying. I finish my coffee, surprised by how calm I feel. The not knowing was worse than knowing. What are you going to do? I'm going to think about it. Carefully. That afternoon, I drive to the Fontainebleau's website and create a fake email account. It takes 15 minutes to confirm Jake's reservation details. Apparently, hotel security isn't as tight as it should be when you claim to be calling about updating the guest preferences for the Turnbull party. 1 suite, ocean view, king bed, champagne service. My wife is planning to spend 4 days in Miami, pretending to be married to another man, while I sit at home wondering why she seems so distant lately. The rage hits me like a physical force, starting in my chest and spreading outward until my hands shake on the steering wheel. 22 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, a life built on the assumption that we were partners, that we were honest with each other, that we were committed to something bigger than our individual desires. But rage is unproductive. Rage makes you sloppy, makes you do stupid things that feel good in the moment, but cost you everything later. I learned that lesson in college basketball. The players who let emotion drive their decisions were the ones watching from the bench during important games. Instead of rage, I choose calculation. I drive to Office Max and buy a small digital recorder, a notebook, and a pack of pens. Then I go home and sit in my basement office, staring at the heating vent that's been my window into Marta's secret world. By evening, I have the beginning of a plan. When Marta comes home at 11:30, no client dinner smell on her clothes, lipstick reapplied sometime recently. I'm reading in bed. The picture of domestic normalcy. How was dinner? I ask without looking up from my book. Fine. Boring, mostly. Henderson Group is demanding, but the account could be worth millions. She's doubling down on the lie, adding details to make it more believable. It's almost admirable in its thoroughness. That's great, honey. I'm proud of you. She smiles, the kind of smile that used to make my day and now makes my skin crawl. Thanks, I'm going to shower. While water runs in the bathroom, I check her purse. A violation of privacy that would have horrified me a week ago, but now feels like basic reconnaissance. Inside, I find a receipt from a restaurant I've never heard of, dated tonight, for 2 dinners and a bottle of wine that costs more than our monthly cable bill. I photograph the receipt with my phone, then put everything back exactly as I found it. When Marta emerges from the shower, I'm back to reading. The picture of a husband who trusts his wife completely. Good book? She asks, climbing into bed. Very educational, I reply. And it is. I'm learning things about deception, about betrayal, about the difference between the person you married and the person lying next to you in bed. But mostly I'm learning about revenge. Thursday night, I'm crouched behind a dumpster in the T-Bold parking garage, feeling like the world's most pathetic spy. The security guard makes his rounds every hour, and I've timed it perfectly. 9:47 p.m., just after his last sweep of the evening. Getting into the building,
Intimate text intro, another weather yummy.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
was easier than expected. Jennifer left a side door propped open as promised, in exchange for another coffee shop meeting and $200 cash. I told her I just needed to retrieve some documents Marta had accidentally taken home. Not technically true, but not entirely false either. Marta's office is on the 3rd floor, corner suite with windows overlooking the city. I've been here for company parties, admiring the view and the sleek furniture, proud of my successful wife. Tonight, the space feels different, like a crime scene I'm investigating rather than visiting. Her desk is immaculate, everything organized with the precision of someone who likes control. I start with the obvious places: desk drawers, filing cabinets, the small safe behind her college diploma. The safe is locked, but the combination is easy to guess. Our wedding date, reversed. Inside, I find documents that make my chest tight. Bank statements for an account I didn't know existed, correspondence with a divorce lawyer dated 3 weeks ago, and a folder labeled EM Asset Evaluation. EM Evan Marks. My wife has been cataloging my assets like I'm a business she's planning to liquidate. The bank statements show regular deposits from her salary, but also cash deposits that don't match her official income. The amounts are significant, enough to suggest she's been skimming from client accounts or receiving money from sources she hasn't mentioned. But the real discovery is in the 3rd drawer of her filing cabinet, a manila folder containing printed emails between Marta and Jake, dating back 8 months. I photograph everything with my phone, hands shaking slightly as I scroll through their correspondence. The progression is clear. Professional collaboration evolving into flirtation, then into explicit planning for my removal from the picture. From Jake Turnbull to Marta Marks. Subject: next steps. The lawyer says the prenup is solid, but there might be ways around it if we can prove financial misconduct or abandonment. Worth exploring. Can't wait for Miami. 4 days of not pretending we're just friends. From Marta Marks to Jake Turnbull. Subject: array next steps. Evan's so oblivious it's almost sad. He has no idea what's coming. The house will be the tricky part. But if we can show he's been neglectful or financially irresponsible, we might have leverage. See you tonight. Usual place. The usual place turns out to be documented in Jake's responses. A boutique hotel downtown, room 1247, reserved under false names twice a week for the past 6 months. I'm photographing the last email when I hear footsteps in the hallway. Panic floods my system as I shove the documents back into the drawer, grab my phone, and look for somewhere to hide. The footsteps are getting closer, accompanied by the jingle of keys. The security guard, making an unscheduled round. I duck behind Marta's desk just as the office door opens, holding my breath and praying my middle-aged knees won't betray me by creaking. A flashlight beam sweeps the room, pausing on the desk, the windows, the filing cabinet. Thought I heard something up here, a voice mutters. The beam moves closer to my hiding spot. I can see the guard's shoes, black, practical, the kind worn by someone who spends all night walking on concrete floors. He takes 3 steps into the office, then stops. My phone still in my hand, chooses this moment to vibrate with a text message. The sound is barely audible, but in the silence of the empty office, it might as well be a fire alarm. The guard's feet turn in my direction. Hello? Anyone in here? I have maybe 10 seconds before he discovers me, crouched behind my wife's desk like a common criminal. The irony would be funny if I weren't about to be arrested for breaking and entering. Instead of waiting to be caught, I make a decision that would have seemed impossible a week ago. I stand up, smile, and wave. "Evening, officer. Sorry to startle you." The guard, a man in his 60s with the tired expression of someone working a job that barely pays the bills, stares at me in confusion. "Sir, this is a private building. How did you get in here?" "I'm Evan Marks," I say, extending my hand like we're meeting at a cocktail party. "Marta's husband. She asked me to pick up some documents for tomorrow's presentation. At 10 o'clock at night? You know how it is in advertising. Deadlines don't respect normal business hours." He considers this, flashlight still pointed in my direction. "I'm going to need to see some identification." I hand over my driver's license, maintaining the friendly demeanor of a man who belongs exactly where he is. Of course, I should have checked in downstairs, but the door was open and I didn't want to bother anyone. "Mrs. Marks didn't mention anyone would be here tonight." "Last-minute thing. You know how she is. Very dedicated to her clients." The guard examines my ID, then looks around the office. "What kind of documents?" "Client contracts. Very boring stuff, but apparently critical for tomorrow's meeting." I gesture toward the filing cabinet. "I was just finishing up when you arrived." It's a calculated risk, betting that a night security guard doesn't know the intimate details of every employee's schedule. But the alternative, explaining why I'm really here, would be significantly worse. "I'll need to escort you out," he says finally. "Building policy?" "Absolutely. I appreciate you being thorough." As we walk toward the elevator, I mentally review what I've learned tonight. Marta and Jake have been planning this for months. The affair's just the beginning. They want me gone, financially and personally. The prenup I thought would protect me is apparently just another obstacle for them to overcome. "Your wife works late a lot," the guard comments as we wait for the elevator. "Too much, probably. But she loves what she does. Dedicated woman. Always professional." I nod, wondering what this man has seen during his nighttime rounds. How many times has he encountered Marta and Jake working late together? How many other husbands has he unknowingly helped by being thorough about building security? She's something special, I agree. Back in my car, I sit in the parking garage reviewing the photos on my phone. The evidence is comprehensive. Financial misconduct, adultery, conspiracy to defraud me in divorce proceedings. In the right hands, with the right legal strategy, it's enough to not only protect my assets, but potentially destroy both their careers. But legal revenge is slow, expensive, and uncertain. Lawyers get rich while clients get satisfaction that feels hollow after years of depositions and court appearances. I want something more immediate, more personal, more devastating. I want them to understand what it feels like to have your life dismantled by someone you underestimated. My phone buzzes with a text from Marta. "Working late again? Don't wait up." I text back, "No problem. Love you." The lie comes easily now. I'm learning the language of deception, becoming fluent in the same dishonesty that's been poisoning our marriage for months. But unlike Marta and Jake, I'm not planning to get caught. Friday morning, I'm sitting in the office of Patricia Williams, the divorce attorney I found through an online search for aggressive family law representation. Her office overlooks the Cuyahoga River, and she has the kind of professional demeanor that suggests she's seen every possible variation of marital disaster. "This is quite a prenup," she says, reviewing the document I brought. "Very thorough. Almost bulletproof, from your perspective." My wife's father wrote it. He was protecting her assets, but ironically, he protected yours instead. Yes, I can see that. Patricia adjusts her glasses, studying the fine print. Your wife would be entitled to virtually nothing in a divorce, assuming you can prove she violated the fidelity clause. I slide my phone across the desk, showing her the photos from last night's adventure. "Will this suffice?" She scrolls through the images, her expression remaining professionally neutral, despite the damning evidence. Email correspondence planning adultery, financial misconduct, conspiracy to defraud. Mr. Marks, your wife has essentially documented her own violations of the prenuptial agreement. So, what are my options? You could file for divorce immediately, citing adultery and financial misconduct. With this evidence, she'd get nothing: no alimony, no claim to marital assets, no share of the house or savings. The prenup is ironclad. And Jake? That's trickier. He's not married to you, so adultery isn't legally relevant to his situation. But if you can prove he participated in planning financial fraud, she pauses, considering. There might be civil remedies: intentional interference with marriage, conspiracy to commit fraud. It would be expensive to pursue, but possible. I lean back in my chair, processing the information. Legal victory would be satisfying, but it would also be public, messy, and time-consuming. Marta and Jake would have months to prepare their defense, to spin the narrative, to present themselves as the real victims. What if I wanted to wait, I ask? Let them make the first move? Risky. If she files first, she controls the initial narrative. And if she's been planning this as long as these emails suggest, she might have strategies we haven't considered. Such as, Patricia leans forward, her expression serious. The emails mention proving financial misconduct on your part. If she's been documenting your spending, looking for evidence of hidden assets or irresponsible behavior, she might try to void the prenup by claiming you violated its terms. I haven't violated anything. That may not matter if she can create the appearance of violations, a few suspicious transactions, some unexplained expenses, a pattern of behavior that suggests you've been hiding money or planning to leave her. She shrugs. It's a long shot, but desperate people try desperate things. I think about the cash I've been spending on surveillance, the meetings with Jennifer, the equipment I bought yesterday. None of it is illegal, but it could be misinterpreted by someone looking for evidence of suspicious behavior. How long do I have to decide? Based on these emails, I'd say weeks, not months. They're moving toward implementation phase. The Miami trip is probably their final planning session before she files. Miami. 4 days of my wife pretending to be married to another man while they finalize their strategy for destroying my life. I want to file first, I decide, but not yet. I want to control the timing. Mr. Marks, I have to advise against waiting. The longer you delay, the more risk you assume. I understand, but I want them to think they're in control right up until they're not. Patricia studies me with the expression of someone who's seen too many clients make emotional decisions they later regret. This isn't about the money, is it? The money is important. But no, it's not about the money. Revenge is expensive, Mr. Marks, and it's rarely as satisfying as people expect. Maybe, but some things are worth paying for. I leave Patricia's office with a retainer agreement and a strategy that's both legally sound and personally satisfying. She'll prepare the divorce papers, but hold them until I give the signal. In the meantime, I have work to do. That afternoon, I visit 3 different banks, opening new accounts and transferring funds in amounts just below the reporting thresholds. It's perfectly legal. I'm moving my own money into accounts with only my name. But it will look suspicious to someone who doesn't understand the full context. I want Marta and Jake to think I'm hiding assets. I want them to believe they've found evidence of the financial misconduct they need to void the prenup. I want them to feel confident in their strategy right up until it destroys them. By evening, I've created a paper trail that tells a story. Evan Marks, desperate husband, trying to hide money before his wife can claim it in divorce proceedings. The evidence is circumstantial but compelling, exactly the kind of thing that would make Marta feel like she's discovered my secret plan. The beauty of it is that it's not actually a secret. Every transaction is legal, documented, and ultimately irrelevant to the prenup's validity. But it will take them weeks to figure that out. And by then, it will be too late. Saturday morning, I'm in my basement office when I hear Marta's voice upstairs, talking on the phone with someone who makes her laugh in ways I haven't heard in months. The Miami trip is going to be perfect, she says. 4 days to finalize everything and celebrate early. I record the conversation on my phone, adding it to the growing collection of evidence that will soon become very relevant to both our lives. I found something interesting about Evan's finances, she continues. He's been moving money around, opening new accounts, trying to hide assets before I file. The satisfaction in her voice is unmistakable. She thinks she's caught me in exactly the kind of misconduct that would void our prenup. She has no idea she's walking into a trap I've spent weeks preparing. "Jake, you're brilliant," she says. "This changes everything. We can file as soon as we get back from Miami, and with this evidence, the prenup becomes irrelevant." I smile, staring at the ceiling tiles that have become my confidants over the past week. Marta thinks she's found the key to my destruction, but she's actually holding the instrument of her own. In chess, this would be called a sacrifice, allowing your opponent to capture a piece that seems valuable, but ultimately leads to their defeat. In marriage, apparently, it's called Tuesday. My phone buzzes with a text from Ross. "Coming home next weekend." Mom seems excited about something. Should I be worried? I text back, "Everything's fine. Looking forward to seeing you." It's not entirely true, but it's not entirely false either. By next weekend, everything will indeed be fine, just not in the way anyone expects.